Hey guys, xbeybae here. I just wanted to let you guys know that recently I've actually gotten into the One Piece trading card game, and I recently competed at a 2-year One Piece TCG event at my local, and luckily for us, we got the winners pack here with the three brothers. Hopefully the camera isn't as painful with that, but I am looking to open this today. And additionally with that, I wanted to walk through my experience with the tournament. The leader that I'm running here, I'm sadly running the meta, I'm running LUCCI, but I wanted to go over my experience with the tournament, open up the winners pack. This is my first time doing this type of POV content, so if there's any improvements you guys got, do let me know. I'm very excited to be opening up the three brothers here, and we'll definitely get a close-up of them all three, but we're going to be opening this for the first time. Got some top loaders here with me. Oh my gosh. These brothers are absolutely gorgeous. And if you guys don't know, these are the three brothers from the, I believe it was ST13 starter deck. All right, so we'll get a close-up of all three brothers here. There you go. So we got Sabo here, Revolutionary Army, one of the three brothers in the ST13 deck. Absolutely gorgeous with the 2-year stamp right there. Leave that to the side. Next, we have the other brother, Ace, blue and yellow. Also the 2-year stamp on the other side right there. Absolutely gorgeous. And probably the most meta card right now, one of the strongest leaders in the format in the OP9, has to be none other than still Monkey D. Luffy, that's SD13. This leader is absolutely disgusting when it comes to the format. Still so strong after being viable for like so many sets. But yeah, no, those are the three brothers. For my local here, I was running Rob LUCCI. This is the leader that I used in order to win the 2-year anniversary at my local. Pretty standard, pretty meta leader. And most of the deck lists that I'm going to be showcasing here for LUCCI isn't going to be too different than what anybody else is running. But I have kind of fair tuned and I've tailored the deck list and the ratios sort of to my own liking. And so I'm just going to show you guys what I'm rocking here. So I'm looking to run 3 Spandam here. I did run 4 for a bit, but I feel like 3 is a pretty decent number because as long as you get him either on your first or second, it doesn't really matter when you play him, as long as he's somewhat in your trash. Getting him for the Gecko Moria, if you need to grab that 2K, is very, very valuable, or even just searching. 2 Spandime, no more, no less, just 2 Spandime. It's the magic number and the magic ratio. I am personally running 4 Rob LUCCIs. I have 2 of those alt arts. It looks absolutely fantastic. And I do want to showcase as well that I happened to pull this a couple of nights ago with my friend. The brand new OP9 Rob LUCCI alt art looks absolutely phenomenal. But I'm a little too scared to damage it and put it in my deck. So for now, it just stays in the top litter on my table for now. For our events, we're running 4 Tempest Kick. And we are also running 4 Ice Age. Nothing out of the ordinary for those right there. For my 2Ks, I'm actually only running 2 Grandmas, 2 Suru. There was a scenario where I was running for 3 Grandmas, 3 Surus. But I think as long as you have Helmeppo in your trash, you don't really need so many of Surus because you can just use Helmeppo from the Gecko Moria. I'm personally running only 3 Khalifas, and the reason that I'm running 3 Khalifas is because I look to add some other tech cards for specific matchups that I was worried about. So for me, as long as I still had a few Khalifas to cycle at my hand or to use it for the Spandam off of Gecko Moria, I'm only running 2 Who's Who. I actually prefer the 2K counter as opposed to running the Kaku because I know some people like to run Kaku in their deck. I personally find just the 2K to be a little more reliable as opposed to just having a stronger body on the field. And for the black starter pack, we have to run the 2 Helmeppos. It's almost a staple in the Gecko Moria boards. I'm running 4 Rebekahs. It's a mandatory. It's a must. If you're playing black and you're looking to be competitive, you have to be running the starter pack. I personally am running 3 Brooks. Only because Brook is very expensive and I can't really run a 4th one. But I still think 3 Brooks gets the job done. I'm also running 3 Sabo. I do know a lot of players are now opting to run 1 or maybe even 2 Sabos at this rate. I still find that Sabo gives me a little more breathe room, a little more survivability, especially with the lack of 2Ks that I have in my deck. Having more Sabos to cycle in, cycle out allows me to not only put cards in my trash for matchups like Monkey D. Luffy, where I don't want to hit the leader, but for other leaders where I might want to starve them. So for the mirror matchup with Rob LUCCI, I might want to get some cards in trash without honestly hitting him in the face and discarding and milling a few of my deck. Of course, we got to run 4 Gecko Morias. It is an absolute must with how disgustingly strong this card is. I'm personally running 4 Jacks. I know that some players are running up to, I believe, 3 Jacks in their lists. But I find the consistency with 4. Jack is such a strong body to have on the field, and I always want to see him. As long as I can get 1 or 2 Jacks on the board, I can honestly just trash the rest. It's not really a big deal. And I do know that you can always use Gecko Moria for Rebecca to grab Jack back from the trash. But the problem that I personally have is that I would rather be using Rebecca to grab the 2Ks and maybe even the Spandems to grab 2Ks that I just lack and I just don't have. So I'd rather use my Gecko Rebecca combo that way. As for my tech cards, I'm only running 1 Kaido. The only reason is I feel like having 2 Kaidos is a little too much. You honestly don't need that many Kaidos, honestly. Kaido just comes in, deals with 1 big body, his job is done. Nothing special with that. So as long as I just have 1 Kaido coming in doing his job, I'm not really too concerned about anything else that my opponent may throw on the field. I'm personally running 2 Monkey D. Luffy's, the OP9 one. And the only reason I'm running 2 is because I recently played against a BY Luffy matchup where I had an absolutely horrible time because I was able to survive the game and I almost made him deck out. But the problem was that I came across, I couldn't reliably have enough big bodies to hit him in the face for like 9 and 7K. And by having this Luffy and returning stuff and bottom stacking stuff, I can easily go from like 6K to 9K, maybe get rid of a Sabo blocker, get some counter out of hand. And this Monkey D. Luffy allows me to sort of do that. I'm personally running only 2 Kuzans for the even curve. Kuzan, I think, is still a pretty decent card. I just don't think he's as oppressive and strong as he used to be, only because of how the meta has changed. He's a little bit of a slow pace, a slow tempo. But by putting Kuzan on the board, you kind of force your opponent to have to deal with him now, or he'll be a problem as the game goes on with his, like, when attacking. And just for fun, I personally really like to run the Brook. I think he is absolutely so funny. He's such a meme little card. And just by having him on my board, I can sometimes use leader ability and return one of those characters if I specifically can't get the KO effect out. This Brook mainly is just a little surprise for some of those other players. So that's sort of my deck list that I'm running. As for my first matchup in the tournament, I did go 3-0, winning the entire event. So that was pretty sick. But in terms of my matchups, my first matchup was against a DOFLAMINGO player. And DOFLAMINGO and LUCCI, I feel like overall is a winning matchup for LUCCI. But there are some things that you have to keep in mind if you do want to win the matchup. First things first is you absolutely, as a LUCCI player, you have to control the board. You have to make sure that anything that the DOFLAMINGO puts down gets off the board. Like, you gotta immediately get rid of it as soon as you can. Because if you don't, DOFLAMINGO will flood the board, he'll go wide, and then he'll start swinging 7K at phase, 7K at phase, 8K at phase, 8K at phase. And the most that you can do as the LUCCI player is sort of like counter out as much as you can. But by reducing the board and by clearing the board, you reduce the number of potential attackers that he may have. And I personally like to run cards like Ice Age for this matchup. I also like to run Rob LUCCI to clear out 2 of the characters if possible. Other concerns is you want to see this Brook early. This Brook allows you to control that board early in order to get to your late game. And by that, you can look towards playing like Jax and Gecko Morias off of Rebecca's by the late game and definitely get those reductions off of the ground going. Oh, and I can't forget the Spandom as well off of Rebecca. Rebecca Spandom into LUCCI, very, very strong combo. And if you need that extra reduction, we do have Helmeppo there off of the Gecko Moria. In order, on your odd curve, if for whatever reason you need like some instant reduction, you can always run the Who's Who just to get one thing off of the board. But if you somehow are fortunate enough to reduce enough things, you can always consider Ice Age in the Brook. You can always consider like Ice Age, LUCCI, and then even like a Suru, maybe a combination of these on odd curve on 5, running the Ice Age, maybe the Grandma, maybe LUCCI with the leader ability, somehow getting this to reduce the numbers in time. But especially if you're against the LUCCI matchup, I'm told you want to go second. And I totally understand why you want to go second, just to get rid of that even curve for DOFLAMINGO, because DOFLAMINGO going second allows him to play the Jinbei Weevil as soon as possible. But I personally think it doesn't really matter whether you go first or second in this matchup. Preferably, it is better for you to go second. But I think if you do go first, you do control that board, you get that Jack on curve. The matchup isn't as bad as it seems. You just have to control the board state so that you just don't get constantly hit in the face, right? Making sure that that board is clear is the only way for you as a LUCCI player in order to win. Other things you have to watch out for in the late game, especially if you're running Rebecca, and if you decide to slow the pace of the game, slow the tempo, and if you're running the Sabo, just by having these two blockers here, you have to be careful of either them using leader ability with the Trafalgar Law that allows them to bounce. Maybe you gotta watch out for the Jozu or the Gravity Blades, which returns 6 costs, right, back to the owner's like deck or hand or whatever it may be. And especially watching out for the Perfume Femur for that late game, so that they just cancel out your blockers. The hitter can't be hit. And by having Gecko Moria, making sure you have those 2Ks in hand off of Spandam, off of Rebecca, making sure you pull those out. It's really important to make sure that you are either at like 1 life or 0 life, just making sure you're surviving for as long as you can. My second matchup was a mirror against another Rob LUCCI, but luckily for me, the Rob LUCCI that I was facing against wasn't necessarily playing meta. So their deck list included a couple pieces that were running a very interesting line of LUCCI. But for regular cases of LUCCI, as long as you play your game, there's no real concern. Getting those Brooks out as soon as possible. You definitely want to go first as the LUCCI player. You always want to go first. Making sure you get those Rebecca's out, making sure you get those Gecko Morias out, making sure you get those Sabos out to prevent the KO from anything else you may see. And as always, Jack is such a hard body to get rid of. So by having him on the board, you can sort of control the board state itself just because you have this giant body on the field. And if you do need to get rid of his Jack as well, you do have resources like Ice Age, and you do also have resources like Tempest Kick when you get enough things in your trash. And even onto that here, I am personally running the Kaido for this specific reason. The Kaido just to get rid of either the Gecko Moria, maybe even getting rid of the Jack itself if I just don't have enough resources at hand. And just for tech purpose as well, you could also consider running like this Monkey D. Luffy, or maybe even this Brook, just to help with the reduction, and by maybe swinging into the Jack or just trying to get rid of it off of reduction is another great way to try to survive the mirror matchup in LUCCI, at least from my own experience. And for my last match of the tournament, especially for that Zoro matchup, the last one that I had to win, that matchup is actually, for most cases, it is heavily favored in LUCCI. But if you're not careful with your hand and you're not careful with the piece that you see, it is very easy for the Zoro player to sort of run away with the game if you're not careful. So I personally always try to go first into the Zoro matchup if possible. If not, it is what it is. But if I am going first with the Zoro matchup, you do have to run that Brook. It's so crucial to clear things in the early game. Most of the time, Zoro's running like 1 cost, 2 cost, maybe even 3 cost characters. So it is really easy for you to reduce a lot of things on your 5 curve or even on your 4 curve, just dropping that LUCCI down, trying to get some things off of the board, clearing those 1 costs, clearing those 2 costs, 3 costs if you can. And always, if you need some extra reduction, the Suru, the Ice Sage are definitely in your favor. Based on the tempo that Zoro runs, you can't really run Tempest Kick for reduction just because of how aggressive the Zoro player plays. So it really does come down to surviving the early game, countering out aggressively if you can. And then sort of when you get to that late game, making sure that you play those staples like Gecko Moria and Jack just for those blockers. And the Rebecca's and the cycling, making sure you're grabbing those 2Ks at hand. If you're at your mid game for like your 5-6 curve before you hit the 7 and the 8, you could also consider running Who's Who for some extra board removal and board control if you need to. But for the Zoro matchup specifically, it's really important that you do grab your 2Ks at hand because he does have access to that Diamble Jambe in the late game, which does turn off your blockers, and all of his hitters can just swing at face. So making sure that you have at least enough counter in hand to sort of block the entire game and to maybe take a few hits just so that you can swing back into him late game, swinging with 7, swinging with 8, swinging with 8, swinging with 8 by the late game is really the name of the game for this LUCCI matchup. Because, like I said, this matchup is very, very unforgiving if you aren't able to control the board or at least prevent enough Zoro attackers from flooding the board so quickly. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end, I greatly appreciate it if you guys gave a like, thumbs up, support, comment, share it with others, whatever you may do. And other than that, I hope you guys hope to see more One Piece content because I'd love to make some more if everybody's down to watch. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. See ya. Bye-bye.